There we go. That's recording. Welcome to the PARAcast. I'm your host, Tomas the Boss Fernandez, joining you on this beautiful Sunday with these plants behind me and this wonderful natural light. Anyways, you can find that natural light on PARAcast Firearms Podcast on YouTube. Go pull that up and you can see what's actually happening here. Joining me tonight, Uncle Mike's real holster. It's Robert Wyatt.
I don't even have a response for that. I mean, thank you.
No, it's not a compliment. And father of his first
it might be.
Father of his first legitimate child, it's Nate Osborne.
You only pay for legitimate ones.
That's true. Other ones, just you know that you've led an irresponsible life when
I'm just trying to avoid like a racial joke here.
When you get called to Maury. When you get called to Maury, you're like, oh no, I know what this is about.
The lie detector says.
Yeah. So anyways, let's get into it. Steve couldn't make it today. Kenny couldn't make it today, so Nate Osborne was gracious enough to hop in and fill in for the both of them.
Brought somebody up from the minors.
Yeah, bringing him up.
From the minor leagues, I want to emphasize.
He's bringing Matt Gates over here, everybody. He's bringing up those minors, bringing them up across the state border. Anyways, so just to hop in there, yesterday, talk about what we did. I went and I shot an IDPA match, the first match I've shot in 7 months, and it was fun. I started making it up there towards getting closer to Nate's part of the woods. And I was reading a sign that said on the freeway going up, 40-mile-an-hour gusts of wind, and I was like, "That's interesting. I haven't felt anything." And then as soon as that, I thought that the car started drifting to the left, and I was like, "Holy heck!" I'm like sawing at the wheel trying to keep the road straight. And then when we got to the range, like every target was being blown down, knocked over. I went to go pick up my range bag. A target came off the sticks and flew at me, and I caught it with my hand, because it almost tried to cut my head off. And so it was pretty blustery for the day, but it ended up calming down, so it got pretty good. But so I went out there, and of course I brought the old HK-45 to go shoot that in its inaugural match with its Talon grips now. It's got some Talon grips. So
you probably had to hold for wind shooting that 45.
I went with the 45 because it was subsonic. Didn't have to break the sound barrier. What do they call it when you when it has to what is it?
When it goes transonic.
Transonic. When it goes transonic, didn't have to worry about that, and wind resistant.
I mean, I watched the video, and you went up there to shoot the thing, but it looked like that thing was shooting you more than anything.
Well, here's a couple things that are going on with the gun. So the gun's like 34 ounces. So like you're getting a good heft of that recoil impulse back to you, but it wasn't so like needed to grip the gun harder. That ended up kind of clearing up as it went on through the day. The big issue with the gun is besides gripping it harder was the 3-dot sights. And how annoying those things are to try to line up and to make shots. So having the 3-dot sights, not seeing the sight picture the way I wanted to, having more recoil than I was used to, and then being rusty, and then having like a different timing recoil impulse. Like there was one stage that had like 3 activators, and one of them was a pretty quick peeker. So you shot one activator, there was a paper target, and then there was like this peeker, but it would go and then disappear. And I was like, I'm Tom Nelson. I can shoot that activator, shoot that piece of paper, and then go over there. And I'm just like, whap, 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 whap. And then I get over there, and the damn thing's basically gone. So it had like its right shoulder sticking out, so I had to plug a 3. I was like, oh, good, that was worth the 3 seconds. Plug a 3. I should have just fired a shot and moved on. It probably would have been quicker. But going through there, but like my whole timing was off.
You could tell that watching the video. You could see that. I mean, the traditional split that you're used to. I mean, you'd fire the gun, boom, and I'd like go out and get a coffee and come back, boom.
Yeah, it was like boom, 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 boom. Instead of like a pop, 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 pop. Like you watch, it's kind of difficult to sit there and do it. Like if I had regular like Dawson's on the gun, it would have been a little bit easier because at one point I came around the corner, and you know when you have like that flashlight picture, and you're like, I'm gonna put the front sight on this damn thing, and I'm gonna get that trigger, and I'm gonna get gone. And then when your back rear sight kind of looks like the front sight, and then like I put the back rear sight on it, and I was about to pull the trigger, I was like, that's not a sight picture, Thomas. That's a DQ. That's gonna go over a berm or something, and then had to like reline it up. It was difficult.
Didn't we just talk about how rules don't really apply at that range?
Did you just
goes over
send it over? Send it over.
It just hits one of those poor hikers on the hill.
The first one's a warning.
Yeah.
The second one is, no, we're serious.
And then a match DQ.
Yeah, so I came in third overall shooting 8-round CDP. Carry Optics and a guy in ESP beat me kind of handily. But like, as far as what I was worried about before was being inaccurate with the gun, and I shot the 5x5 classifier, you know, the holy grail of standards. And I dropped 1 point on the headshot, where I shot it in the head, which was right below the little headshot circle. So that was okay. Gun ran good. It has a couple little issues. It has one issue where...
Well, it doesn't have a proper mag release, so that's
an
issue.
The magazine catches right there, and there's a little latch that sticks out from the mag... Well, the latch sticks out like this. And so after you release it, it drags on that first top part of the magazine. And so sometimes if the magazine's empty and the slides lock back, sometimes it doesn't have enough weight and it can kind of get caught like a Glock mag will. Like the old Glock mags, like get caught right about in that position, about 60% out. And I had to bring up a magazine, strip it, stick in another one, and fire it. And that was the difference between third and second place. But the gun ran well, and it shot exactly to the horrendous 3-dot night sights that I don't want to change, but I simultaneously want to change. But it was fun. It was fun to get out there and shoot a match, and it was IDPA, and it was fun. And it's like I kind of missed IDPA, so it was a good time.
Other than just the fact that it's an HK, so it's going to cost stupid money, why not just change the sights?
I could change.
I would. It makes sense because realistically, night sights are probably the most worthless set of sights you could ever buy next to the Glock plastic ones, which you don't even buy.
Well, I wouldn't say that they're worthless because they have some functions.
Fine. No sights would probably be more worthless.
I think what you're saying is, in the middle of a day when I need a fine precision thing, I can have a glowing fiber optic dot and a back rear in perfect lighting. They work great. It's like, yeah, like fiber optic sights work great, and then if you have the light on the gun, they work great. I'm kind of in this mindset of like wanting to shoot like a stock pistol. Like, here it came from the factory, now go shoot it. And so, yeah, that's the way it came from Langdon's factory.
Factory is factory.
So
just because Langdon's factory cares about its customers and HK cares about its bottom line, how is that my problem?
I was excited to find out, but see, there's the extractor right there. There is plenty of material there to cut on that HK45, so you could probably mount 2 optics. I can mount a magnifier to that thing, but I could change them out, and I think I might change them out. I think Dawson makes a pair, and definitely LPA of Italy makes a set to put them on there. So we'll see. But besides that, that gun is freaking accurate, and it shoots to the damn top of the sights. So as long as you put the damn top of the sights there, it'll just put them right there. And the one beautiful thing about shooting 45, especially in a time penalizing sport as IDPA is that the gun, the 45 caliber will get you all the line hits you could possibly want. We walked up to that classifier, that 5x5 classifier with its 8-inch circle, and there was like 45 lines, like all around like some of the bottom edges, and I was just like, I love this thing. I love this thing. They walk up to score the target, and they're like 1 down. I was like, heck yeah. So
there was some dude that used to show up to the USPSA match shooting 45, but it was the semi-wad cutters, and those things would just punch
like
these
paper
big old,
punch.
Yeah, these giant holes in it, and it's like somebody go get like some 1 inch wide tape or something, because it's just having to pace those things every frickin' time. But yeah, they definitely give you all the line hits.
So anyway, that's what I was up to. Robert?
I so I actually bought. So I guess Loophole came out with an update to their Delta Point Pro, and it looks to be generally the same dot, except for I guess they fixed the internals a little bit, but more than anything, they put a 6 MOA dot on it, and so you went from a 2.5 to a 6 MOA, and I thought that was pretty effing awesome, just because. Um, I like the Delta Point. I've never disliked it. I mean, I had some problems with it for sure, but I always liked how the window was set up.
Yep.
And I always wished because I remember shooting your Vortex with that. I think it was like the 8 MOA dot.
It's 6 MOA, 6 MOA flat.
Oh, okay.
6.0.
And I just remember thinking this is the greatest thing ever. And I've looked at the 5 MOA on the SROs, and that thing doesn't look like a 5 MOA to me. Maybe I'm just not looking at it right or something like that. But I remember shooting yours, and I'm like, this is straight out of those old-timey movies where they'd sing songs in between intermission. You just follow the bouncing ball.
Yeah.
So you just shoot, and you just follow the bouncing ball. And it was just so perfect. And so just the thought of being able to have that on there in a platform that I like a lot, I got a ship notice on it. I should get it sometime next week, and I'll throw it on my original Shadow and shoot that a little bit.
Yeah.
Problem is now I've got two options I got to play with. It's either the Beretta or that Shadow.
Well, you got 3 options. You got Beretta or Shadow. You got SRO, Holosun, or Delta Point. Well, technically on the Beretta, if you shoot the Beretta, then you only have the Holosun because you can't. Well, or the SRO.
Well, if you really want to get into it, I got 4 options because I got the RMR that's on one of my other guns.
Yeah.
And so I could pull that out and put it on the Beretta. And that's pretty much what all of Langdon's rodeos really kind of pimp out. The SRO is mostly just for competition guys, but the RMR, which is a fantastic optic, it just naturally goes right into this. The thing I love about the Beretta is I actually like the co-witness sights. I recognize they're not worth it, but it is pretty darn cool. It's like having that Holosun Vulcan, where you're like, oh, a little bit off, oh, just fix that right there, and then we'll keep going. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, they are kind of like red dot training wheels. Nate Osborne has a bunch of experience with red dots. It was on the red dot train. See, when's the first time? 2014 is the first time I remember you having a red dot on a gun. So you've been kind of doing it for a while.
Yeah, but you have to remember, if on the tactical side, there's currency in how early you were to adopting something.
Well, that's true.
So
that's true.
It's like, how cute, you're shooting a staccato now. I was doing that back in the good old days before you were born.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've done it for a while.
So you were country when country wasn't cool.
Yeah, longer than others, but.
So the idea is like the Loophole Delta Point was that in the RMR for a while, and then of course Holosun's kicked up and had a bunch of success with that. The Delta Point 2.5, the only thing every time I look through a 2.5 is like the dot seemed like it was a little bit, I wouldn't say dimmer, but because it was so small, it seemed like a little bit harder to track. And then when you would get some of those false dots is off the emitter, like depending on the angle of the optic, it seemed like those could be sometimes as large as the 2.5 millimeter dot. So I'm excited that Loophole's actually put out a 6, because in my limited experience, the 6 MOA perfectly round circular dots is like, that's just right, you know.
I think so. Yeah, I agree.
Nate, your opinion on dot size?
It doesn't matter all that much.
What do you normally run?
I mean, I've shot everything from the 1 minute RMR up to the 9 or whatever some of the old ones were. I used a 6 MOA RMR for a while. I think I said before, just the way my eyes work, I have they starburst pretty bad for me. Pretty much all red dots, except for the Holosuns. Surprisingly, those are pretty crisp for me. But one thing I did kind of like about the big RMR dot was it actually looked like a real circle to me, and I don't know if it's just because it was bigger, and so the light wasn't as focused on a 1 minute point. It was kind of a little more diffused around a 6 minute circle. But that thing, when I looked at it, it legitimately looked like a perfectly round circle. So that was kind of cool. I don't think it affected anything, but it was very clear. I think it doesn't really matter. I've got like 3-4 different size dots right now, and they're all kind of the same to me.
The one thing that kind of gets me is like it's the same thing is my every dot that I look through is not circular. So that's kind of weird. But I don't know if anyone else, they don't like Starburst too bad, but they have like little radiant edges to the little dot, so it's not crazy. But same thing, the bigger dot, like a 6 MOA dot, if I get a 6 MOA dot and then I look through the sight and like really hard focus on target through the sight, like then I get like more of a circular object. And then when you get to like that, I had a guy in a class one time who had that 9 minute of angle RMR, and that one was like, I looked through that and I was like, oh, that's a perfect circle. That's kind of neat. So yeah, it's all, everyone worries about like a 9 minute circle. It's like, if you've ever hit anything with an iron sight, you're gonna be okay. Like 9 MOA is not gonna cover up the entire target. You'll be fine. So now it'll be interesting because I've thought about that with the this summer sending my Glock 17 Gen 5 that's not an MOS and sending it off to Wilson Combat to get them to do one of their True Zero cuts on it. And one of the options they have is to directly mount a Delta Point Pro directly, because their cut is basically their footprint is a Delta Point footprint that they put their plates on it for other optics, but they'll directly mount the Delta Point Pro to the top of it, and so they'll cut it, mount it for 550. So that's with the optic. So I thought
I wonder if they do that for the Glock 41.
I'm not sure if it's just. I would guess so. I mean, a Glock 41 slide is not too dissimilar from a Glock.
Well, it's a 34 slide.
Yeah. So it's not too dissimilar from anything else. So they should be able to put that on there. I'm not sure if it shouldn't bug the extractor or the extractor channel. Yeah, that should work. Just put it on there. That'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, I'd like that, and then get a suppressor barrel.
Yeah.
And so I could then just have fun with that.
The problem is with being in the shooting sports is things that you would get if you had no idea what the shooting sports were, you are like braked from doing it. Like I saw it and I was like, I should get my TRP. I should put a dot on my TRP. That would be the coolest thing, to have a 1911 with the dot. And then I sat there and thought to myself, it would only be legal and open. And then I was like, that's the stupidest idea ever. I shouldn't do that. So.
Oh yeah, you play that game all the time, and that
like look at HK with their VP9 competition ready gun.
Yeah,
it's not legal in anything.
In open.
Except for open. Don't worry.
They're so confident in your pistol, you won't be disadvantaged by the VP9.
They're just going to sponsor nationals, and then Foley's going to kick open a new division and allow them in it.
Well, the funny thing is about that is like that's when you go off of like what carry optics looks like, but what it actually isn't. It's kind of like when they like big mags.
Yeah,
we
spent $1 million on R&D for this pistol that we couldn't have the intern that we pay $15 an hour read any of the rule books.
Yeah, or just order a box off of freaking Double Alpha Academy and ship it over here. We'll put it in it. We'll see if it'll work. The one thing that I think is interesting about it is like it's kind of like Glock when Glock made those 23 or 24 round factory magazines.
Jeez, yeah.
It's like this.
Thanks for nothing, jerks.
What are these for?
Well, this is what happens. They go like, people really like 23 round, 24 round magazines. Let's get it, and then we'll sell them to this USPSA crowd, carry optics crowd, and people go, everyone in business goes, that's a good idea, and then they hand it to the engineers, and they're like, no, we want it to work all the time. We're going to make it a little longer, and we're going to put an actual spring in it with an actual follower, and then it's this much too long, and then you can't use it, and so I don't think.
Yeah, the old FN45 engineers.
Yeah.
How did you get it to fit so much ammunition? Well, we made it really long. Why does it recoil so little? Well, it's really big and heavy.
Yeah, we put a weight. It's like the thing is like, there's no free lunch, and so like these engineers, especially from like quality companies, like these quality companies are just like, No, we don't make that stuff out of here. Like HK does not put their stamp of approval on some magazine that could bind up or have some trouble or some mounting platform that's not going to work or whatever, you know.
Yeah, they're not shipping like a 3D printed flat follower from the factory.
They have a sign at the time clock where you punch in. It says "We are not 6 hour" right underneath it, and so they punch in and they go like, "That's right, that's right."
Our touch it like a football team.
So basically, HK's guns don't go off when you drop them on the ground.
No, they don't go off. Sometimes when you squeeze the trigger real hard, they don't go off. That's
because you gotta pull on that
you gave
cocker
a
thing.
14-pound trigger 13 pounds, and it just wasn't enough.
It just wasn't enough. Just wasn't enough. But yeah, the thing is, like, when you have the safety up to in double action, you think you can actually fire the gun, and then you're like, no, I can't. It only feels exactly like you can fire the gun, except for you can't.
You're like, I got to get more finger into this.
No.
Get more left.
So but still, no rattle, everybody. No rattle. It's a brilliantly designed
Quiet
gun.
as the footsteps of a Navy SEAL.
That's right. That's right. Shooting people in the back of the head with a 185 grain jacket at hollow point. Yeah. So that's
In their bed.
that's the thing is, like, there's some companies who won't do that, and then there's newer companies who gain like a big market hold on stuff like, you know, Canik or Yannick or whatever you want to call them. It's like they see exactly what that carry optics division is, and they'll, like, every 2 months they put out a new gun till they came up with the right gun for the sport, and then charged them. You know, sometimes they group, sometimes they don't, but they run. You can mount a dot to them.
Well, it doesn't hurt that they actually like hired somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah.
When did HK do that?
Ooh,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Derek Giddings. I mean, they tried for a little while of bringing on some HK shooting team, but
They were shooting MP5s and PCC. Do you remember that?
yes,
Yeah.
I do.
Good times.
Yeah.
Which, let's be honest, that would be the funnest PCC of all time to shoot in a match, but it's still kind of funny.
Well, it's from the 1960s, everybody. Like, back then, most semi-automatic handguns didn't have a slide release. So it's like...
Yeah, it did. It was your hand.
Yeah, it was... Yeah. It's like...
Well, Smith & Wesson still thinks that's how a slide release works.
Yeah. Well, at
No,
least
they're too far. There, the magazine insertion is the slide release.
Yeah.
Not on the 2.0. It's
Not on the 2.0. You can freaking use a 2.0 as a hammer to drive in freaking steel rods and it won't drop. This is the slickest thing ever, is that stupid 1.0. But the funny thing is like, that MP5 and PCC is like, the magazine won't insert on a closed bolt with a fully loaded magazine. You're going to find any extended magazines? No, you're not going to find any extended magazines.
Yeah, from ETS.
Oh.
Those it'll run great.
Those are the guys who, if you want a 24-round Glock magazine, have no problems making it and shipping it to you. Those are the cats.
Didn't they, like, they just started going crazy. Like, they're like, oh, you like extended 45 round or 45 magazines? Here's one that holds 32 rounds. Like,
Yep.
Have at it.
I've got them. They work quite well.
Yeah,
I will say the funnest time I had shooting PCC is when I would bring out the 45. That's just fun. I mean, it's actually an enjoyable way to shoot PCC. It's not like the wimpy 9mm. You're shooting a gun that's actually going to do something. And I really enjoyed it. And if I ever shot PCC, like, as a, semi-serious whatever, that 45 looks really fun. And I get it, price is price, but I don't care so much about the cost of bullets. I mean, bullets are the cheapest things that we buy in this game.
Yeah, well, the one thing is, too, is, like, right now, while primers are so short, everyone can stock up on bullets. So just stock up on whatever ridiculous bullet you want to shoot in a match. The one thing that always...
I have so many 45s sitting. I mean, if I pull away this flag, I have an entire shelf filled with 230 grain 45.
That's incriminating yourself. You won't do that.
No. You'll also see all the other things that are likely to get a dog shot if I happen to have a dog.
The one thing is, like, with 45, especially in the PCC, like, how much range does that cartridge actually have when you give it, like, 4 more inches of barrel?
There's probably a lot of truth to that.
Yeah,
that's what I want to try with that.
Did it go from
5s.
Yeah, well, if you have a 230 grain bullet, does it go from like 90 yards before it hits the dirt on like a shooting at a 5-foot tall silhouette, or does it go to like 120 or 130? Because I'm guessing it's not a whole lot more.
I know. Well, I know that we could shoot the plate rack pretty easy out of slip. So when they had it down on the far end,
Yeah.
that's not that much. I think by the time you're actually shooting, you're probably like 80 yards. It's not very much, but
Yeah.
it was not difficult to do. I mean, you'd fire it, bang, tink.
enough time to have somebody in a third party yell duck, and it'd still be an effective call.
Like that's the reason why they were all submachine guns. Like you got to send at least 15, 20 rounds down there.
Yeah.
So Nate, what have you been up to?
So actually, I shot my first match for a long time yesterday as well, except it was not a pistol match. It was an NRL 22 match.
Oh,
First
nice.
time I've ever shot that. It is like PRS for rimfire.
Huh.
How far are the targets, Nate?
So it's I don't know a ton about it because, like I said, a buddy of mine has done it a bit, and I just kind of went on a whim and I borrowed his gun when we were there. But essentially, from what I understand, is NRL has, I think, 4 stages every month that they release, and everybody in the country shoots those same stages. And they've got a target package and a prop package that every club needs to have, and they will sell you the target package like from headquarters for like 300 something bucks, and it has all the steel plates and everything that you need. So, for example, the headquarters of the organization helps the clubs.
What?
I don't know if you're familiar with that.
You can't, Nate. We know that it's impossible for an organization to set up a match in a Connex or to have packs that clubs can sell to get them on their way. It's impossible. These people.
I know.
They must have been
just
that right-wing fake news.
I don't know. I think they're just trying to trick me. But anyway, and it's pretty straightforward. They've got
what kind of distances? I mean,
So from NRL, once again, as far as I understand, the official stages can only go out to 100 yards. However, what most clubs will do is they will shoot the 4 official stages and have anywhere from 2 to 4 like club-only stages where you're basically just shooting it for your club results.
Yeah.
And those ones, we didn't shoot out very far this month, but in the past, they have shot out to 2 or even 300 yards.
How much are the rifles that these guys are shooting?
So that's the interesting thing. Like, they are, I mean, it's just like any other shooting match. I mean, you've got the guys shooting expensive open guns. There's guys there that have, like, I saw a College 6-24 optic on one. I saw a Night Force Attacker 5-25. I mean, so some of these guys have, $2,500 optics on guns with, the custom chassis and all the bells and whistles and stuff like that. However,
is there a production division?
There is, and theirs is determined by MSRP of your gun and your scope combined. So, like, if you're shooting a Vortex, you're kind of screwed because, you paid $300 for it, and MSRP is like $799. So,
yeah.
But we were shooting like basically a stock CZ, I don't know, 427 or something, just a bolt action 22. With my buddy's got a Vortex HST 4-16 on the top, and that's what we both shot. So you can go out there and be, quite competitive with a pretty basic setup, I think.
So this is just shooting for X rings and stuff like that. But
so that's the other interesting thing. Like, I was talking to some guys there and just saying, like, this is my first match. I shoot USPSA. Nobody goes down range. Because everything is steel and you just go off of impacts, and nobody has to go down and score, tape, anything like that. And the interesting thing is, like in a USPSA match, you want 6 stages, you basically need 6 bays. Well, we were just shooting on one line, and you could have 6 or 7 people all shooting different stages at once. So this guy over here, he's shooting a know your limits target at 50 yards or whatever. This person's shooting a position stage on a tank trap. This guy is shooting off of a table or a chair or a culvert or something, and they've just got stage diagrams and descriptions just like a USPSA match would be. And
how does that work? So describe a stage.
Okay, so I think from what I understand, almost all of their matches, their stages are set with like I think a 2-minute time limit. So you're not using a shot timer, you're just using like a kitchen timer, your phone or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll give you a start position, which would usually be all of your gear in hand, action open, magazine in. And also, from what I understand, most of these stages are 10 round max. You shoot at a target, hit or miss, you move on. So if you've got a gun with one 10-round magazine, you're pretty good for most of the stages. So they'll say, shooter ready, stand by. They start the timer, you build your position up, you shoot through the course, and then if you get to the 2 minutes and you're not done, they'll usually just let you finish, and they'll only give you credit for the hits that you got. And so we had one of the club stages this month was a dueling tree at 100 yards with like 2.5-inch plates, and you just did in your squad, you just did shoot-offs, and whoever won the squad one would go into like an overall match shoot-off, and I did that. So I happened to win in my squad, and then just got absolutely destroyed by one of these like really serious guys. Like I hadn't even built my position yet, and this guy's like tink, tink, tink. And I was done.
So
it was like going back to my first USPSA match. I go in and like, wow, that's possible. Okay.
So like if you have like multiple stages, like were you saying like multiple stages on one bay, right?
Yeah, I mean we were out in the field.
Yeah. So and if there's like multiple shooters, and it's 22 on like 22 steel, so it's like a little bit thinner steel, but like how do you recognize the impact that's your impact versus hearing somebody else's impact on the range?
Or something?
Or like is it a flasher or something like that?
Yeah, so I don't know about other clubs or anything, but we had somebody with a spotting scope, and it was on a nice like seriously, this was some pretty nice gear out there, but he's got a really nice tripod, and he's got this thing set up where he's got like binoculars, a spotting scope, and a rangefinder all set up. And so he's back there, starts the timer, and then he's just looking through his spotting scope, and it's the steel's in there.
Looking for 22 impacts.
Yep, just tallies them up. Tick, 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 tick.
Like that'd be cool. Like if it was, the one thing is like if it was like 17 HMR, like I'd be really down with that. Like to have like a 17 HMR, like something else in there. But if it's all like 22 long rifle, like trying to eke out accuracy out of the 22 long rifle, I mean that's a task.
I will tell you though, like I think part of it is the gun, part of it is a lot of them are using match ammo, but a while ago, Walmart, our local Walmart, before they stopped selling ammo, had a bunch of Remington subsonic. Now you think Remington, you think, peak of ammo.
Here we go.
Control.
Yeah.
But that's what I was shooting, and I was able to hit everything that everyone else was. And everybody there that's serious is shooting subs, because
it's like the Ely or the Wolf stuff.
Yeah, but if you're shooting supers, like let's say mini mags, they're going to go transonic pretty quick, and then that kind of
disrupts
their trajectory and stuff. But all of these guys are shooting subs, and their accuracy was just fine. And obviously we're shooting steel, but we kind of, because me and my buddy were using different ammo, we shot on a paper at 50 yards before the match started, and I was keeping all my shots in a 1-inch circle. So
that sounds almost fun. That kind of
CZ 458.
Something like it's their just basic bolt action.
No, but they make a 22. It's a bolt action 22, but it's very well regarded as being a very good 22 from what I remember.
Yeah, it is. I think it is one of their kind of top of the line 22s, and then it came from the factory, I think, in a Boyd stock.
Okay.
So, but I mean, yeah, maybe people would think it was boring or something, but I'll tell you what, you shoot a lot of stages for the time you're out there.
How long were you out there?
We were out there for about 5 hours, and I think we shot 8 or 9 stages, plus the shoot-off at the end.
So about 100 rounds?
Yeah, I mean, when you were doing the shoot-off with the plates, like, you'd shoot a little bit more, but yeah, you're usually 10 rounds max per stage.
Yeah, it's not terrible at all.
So.
No, that's not. That does sound a whole lot of fun. Like, trying to figure out what you could eke out of a 22 as far as accuracy, but it really sounds like that sounds like more favorable to getting kids into like a competition, especially like, geez, I could send like the people who run the thing $400 and they could send me all the equipment
Yeah.
to run a
And
stage. That's like
yeah,
a family competition. You could hold a
yeah,
family reunion and run that.
yeah. And that's the steel stuff. And then the cool thing is the props. It's like you need a ladder and a chair with a back and a tank trap, and we'll send you instructions on how to make it, and maybe 2 or 3 other pretty common items.
Yeah.
So it's not like you would be out a lot to set those stages up. And like I still love shooting I love shooting handguns and stuff, but I'll tell you what, it was really nice to go to a match where I was just sitting there with no ear protection on, not getting blasted by a
everybody's just using suppressed rifles.
Well, a lot of people were like we were, but when you shoot a subsonic 22
out of a long barrel,
it's not very loud.
I'll tell you what, it was not uncomfortable. And in fact, I thought that was quieter than shooting a supersonic 22 through a can.
Yeah.
Well,
it was just such a nice match to like just be able to sit there and hang out the whole time. I never went down range. I never taped a paper target. I'd never reset a steel plate. Like, am I going to do that exclusively from now on? No, but I would love to go back and do it, at least every few months.
Right on.
That sounds great. Sounds really good. What also sounds great is heading over to DominateDefense.com, what I used yesterday with my compact holster, DominateDefense.com belt. Use the regular duty belt. It's fantastic. I do miss double belts. I wish IDPA would allow me to have a double belt because I love that rigidity. You don't realize,
man. Kilt in the streets.
Kilt in the streets. When I pull this thing out of a leather holster later, we'll see if I get killed in the streets. But head over to DominateDefense.com, use promo code PARA10 and save 10% off your order. And head over to GallantBolts.com, use promo code PewPro10 to save 10% off your emails first order, as Nate Osborne was so gracious to remind us of a few months back. Anyways, you guys can also go head over and open your Telegram app. Head on there, and we got a little group there where we ask questions, and you can ask us questions. And that's, of course, after or before you go over to Patreon.com. Give us $1 a month. Give us get a longer uncensored version of a show.
From Ron Davison. Greetings from your neighbors to the north, Jackson, Wyoming. During the winter, my club doesn't shoot USPSA. It's just IDPA. And I think it's lulled me into a sense of complacency regarding my ability. For what it's worth, I'm a rated an expert in IDPA's ESP, CDP, and even PCC. Hashtag no homo. Yesterday, we shot our first USPSA match of the season. I was shooting carry optics. I'm kind of questioning the homo part. In the classifier called 6, in order to hit even an A, you had to do this about 3.5 seconds with less, 3.5 seconds or less with all A zone hits. And all I shot was a high C. I think I'm an IDPA accuracy over speed mindset and need to shake it. This combined with trepidation that comes from the turn and draws obviously affects my ammo. Man, dude, seriously, like TLDR this thing. How do I get faster?
You shoot you shoot faster.
That's a practical pistol show after dark question, good sir.
What do you think you are? What do you think? So this was my problem. I came from IDPA. And when I came from IDPA, I was a master, and then it only took me 3 years after that to become a master in USPSA. Like, B class, I went through pretty quick. A class, I stayed in for a long time.
Well, an IDPA expert is probably a C class USPSA.
Well, I would say it is. So, a IDPA expert is a C class in speed, but probably close to a high A in accuracy. So because in some of those classifiers in IDP, especially the new ones, you have to be pretty quick, but you have to be pretty accurate. But if you take that same mindset over to USPSA, it can be pretty penalizing. And so, like, you might have IDP is very good at developing accurate shooters, but you have a hard time translating the value of A to the value of a down 0, and they're not equivalent. 1 down 0 is equal to, I don't know, 40% of an A zone. Like, an A zone's just, it's good to get points, it's good to bring points up, but the C zone, you can put some in there sometimes, some close C's. You can put those in there, and so it's a matter of drawing the gun, putting the sight on target, and then driving the gun back to that target. And as soon as you think you're comfortable with breaking that shot, or what it looks like it could be somewhat okay to break that shot, you're instantly breaking that shot. In IDPA, it's almost like you're stabilizing the sights to put them in the same hole. Like your IDP, it always seems like you're aiming for the down zero perf inside the down zero itself.
That's because IDPA is a punishing sport and it's no longer relevant to anything in real life.
Yeah.
I mean, objectively, I'm not being a dick by saying that. I mean, they've prioritized accuracy so heavily that, I mean, it's worth taking that down 3 because, or making up that down 3 because 3 seconds is the world.
Yeah, it's better than 5. Having 5 off the target, but the one thing is with IDPA is, accuracy was always very important in IDPA. What they simply did is they push speed a little bit more out of the way. I mean, you still have to be quick. You just can't blast the shots, but you have to push yourself, and that's the hardest thing.
Yeah. All right, from Lex Kanishi, why are some shooters unwilling to follow the rules? Because they shouldn't be rules in the first place. Why is that even a question?
Why are some shooters not or willing to follow the rule? Because there's an advantage to it, and so people get away with doing things that they're allowed to get away with. It's as simple as that.
From Mike Jones, what are your thoughts on the Cool Fire Trainer and airsoft guns to fill in training gaps caused by lack of primers?
Nate, you want to go first on this one?
I think it probably adds an element of enjoyment for some people, like to actually see the slide cycling, to see holes in a paper target if you're shooting airsoft. I think if you're serious about just improving your skills for practical shooting, I think the dry fire does it all. I mean, I think there's plenty of evidence with some of the, or most, if not all of the top shooters in the sport, that you can become one of the top shooters in the sport by using effective dry fire. And that doesn't mean, aiming at the bad guy on the TV with your pistol while you're watching a movie, but focused, dedicated dry fire will make you very good at USPSA. And I don't think anybody's really going to argue that. So Is it necessary? No, it's not. It's absolutely unnecessary. If it's the difference between you practicing and not practicing, well, maybe it's effective for you.
Nate, so back in 2015, we did that MAG 80 course, and they put us in there. What was that thing called? The 360 or 320 degree video screen go kill bad guys simulator. Well,
yeah.
And so we went in there, and so like as part of that simulator, they have these different events like a school shooting or like you're raiding a hot tub party or something like that. So they have like
that's
these different.
That's the one I always picked.
Yeah, that's it. Those are my women now. But like you get like a Glock and like of course Nate took the SIG one, but they had like sort of like a cool fire, dry fire kind of system where it's like they had some sort of compressed air.
They also had an 870 as well, which I used.
So which had some sort of compressed air system so that when you fired the gun, you would have some sense of recoil. Mm-hmm. What I remember of that, it was like the recoil is more than a 22, but it's definitely not the same impulse as firing an actual 9mm cartridge out of a gun, like out of a Glock or something. Like maybe it's 60% of that, or 40% of that, or 70% of that, but it wasn't the same. Your thoughts on that stuff, Nate?
Well, yeah, I think, like I said, if you're truly, your real interest is, I want to become good at shooting USPSA, and whether that means I want to be good at shooting classifiers so I can get my GM card, or I want to be good at actually shooting stages and winning matches and things like that. I mean, it's all in the dry fire, especially if you want to do well in matches. A lot of that doesn't even involve using the gun. It's the movements, it's the getting in and out of positions, and all that stuff. So once again, totally not necessary in my opinion. And if you're using like the justification of, well, it helps me simulate live fire. Like you mentioned, it doesn't.
Yeah,
it's not the same.
So like firing this, well, the one thing is like, if you had an AR-15 and it like ran the bolt, like I think that would be a little bit more closer to firing an actual AR-15 or something like that, because AR-15s generally, if you hold them right, they don't tend to move too much. There's not a whole lot of recoil. Handguns though are very timing specific. So when with the feeling of the slide going back and returning at the proper force and velocity, your body needs to get used to that timing. And so a lot of times when you change a different gun or you change like a recoil spring or a load, like it takes a second or two to get your body back in that timing. But that timing is generally 95% of what you were just doing before. If you get one of these systems and you spend 1,000 reps a night shooting these things, the timing is going to be completely different from when you actually handle a real firearm. It's like,
yeah, but I don't think that actually means that much, to be really honest.
The timing of it?
I mean, well, here's the deal, right? You go out, I mean, if you take Jeff Gordon, and he's like a super great race car driver, and you throw him in a car, just a standard car, is he still going to kick your ass? Of course he is. There's going to be little nuances, but, I mean, all those timing differences, it's the same as picking up a Glock and then picking up a CZ or a SIG. The grips are going to be a little bit different, but you go and you run it a few minutes, 15 minutes later, you have the grip angle figured out, you're off to the races, you're fine.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of with Nate on this. I mean, if it's the only thing, if that's the thing that's going to get you off your can and go out and practice, then I say good luck, go with God, and go do it and have a great time. But you're absolutely right. Dry fire will do almost everything that you're needing to play this game.
My other thought is, especially the people who tend to get wrapped up in those things are kind of newer people to the sport and handgun shooting. And so when you put that person and that person kind of thinks like this is what shooting a gun's going to be like, and then they go shoot a gun, they're going to not see, I don't think, find the value in it too much.
Oh yeah, I bet if you go through every single one, like all of our closets, you're going to find a whole host of useless doodads that we bought when we thought that we needed them at some point in time, which we may or may not have gotten rid of, or they may still be sitting in that closet. But we all buy little things.
That are full.
Rubbermaid totes that are full.
You think about all the money you spent on them.
Well, but you
don't think of the money. Don't think of the money.
But you don't want to get rid of it. I'm just mad that I gave away a Laser Max 45 cartridge. Remember those things? You get to dry fire and see where the bullet impact goes. Oh my God, it's so amazing. Anyways, next question.
From Mr. Dirk Hopkins, if you heard the upcoming major match was going to be a hoser speed shoot, what would you practice? I'd practice like getting on to whatever airline that I was going to fly to that match and canceling my ticket, because that's just lame.
What would I practice? Obviously, the movement's going to be a big deal, but not under transitioning or over transitioning to targets. Like moving quick, but making sure that your dot or your sights are on the target that you're intending to shoot for both rounds, and then transitioning the gun off the target for the next 2 rounds, and not sending rounds in between targets or sending rounds into the D zones or something like that. So hard transitions with movement, but basically staying focused on making sure both those shots are going into the target you intended.
All right, from Sean Edmonds. Oh, he just answered Dirk. Sorry, Sean. I'm not going to even read it. From Mike Jones, he's proposing new visions for USPSA if the primer drought lasts any longer. Slingshot, crossbow, blowgun, and bolo. Bolo sounds fun.
Yeah, the bolo would be great, except
one body shot or decapitating the paper target.
So I would take crossbows in that, except for bows scare the hell out of me. Every time I see somebody holding a bow or like loosing an arrow, I'm just like, oh God. Like bows scare me. They just scare me. They're too dangerous.
The crossbows scare me. It's like you get anxiety the further back that thing goes, and then you fit it in the notch and you're like trying to put the bolt in. You're like, this thing could go at any minute.
Yeah, and it's like it's like this thing's gonna trip, and then like I'm gonna have this arrow like wing off and stuff. And like I don't know if you guys know these things, but like handling bolts, they're very sharp, and especially some of these bolts is like if you have a crossbow accident, like it's not going to be good.
Someone is going to die.
Yeah, and so
some of these things, it's like those old medieval ones. So they're like cranking this thing because it's like a 400-pound pull.
Yeah, they're like set. Oh.
Power factor wise, this thing is like a 50 Action Express plus.
Oh.
Like it's it's a subsonic bolt, and it weighs 7,000 grains. So there you go.
Yeah, it's just. Yeah, those things they're scary. They're just scary. I'm so glad I've lived in an era where I've never had to walk by someone who was shot with an arrow. Like, I just want to see that. I was like, oh, how do you get that out? Oh, you push it through. So we're going to sit here and hold this guy, and we're going to push through this arrow, and hopefully the shaft doesn't break, and we'll pull out the other side. Okay.
Don't worry, we have another stick that we're going to put in his mouth.
Yeah, it's fine. You break the shaft, one half of the shaft in the mouth, the other one you just push through. Horrible.
Like, oh, it's good that I've got this nice, plate armor because I'm a knight.
Yeah.
Like, the longbow goes low and just punches right through it.
Dunk. Sticks out the back end.
Let me just say, it's harder to perform that pushing the arrow through if it's stuck in the front and the back of your armor as well.
Yeah. The one thing is, like, you see some of those things where people are using compound bows and shooting, like, soft body armor, like... Kevlar is a pretty impressive material, but like a lot of those compound bows will punch right through Kevlar. Like you need like a level 3. Level 3 is made for...
You know what's also impressive? It's like 3 razor sharp blades going at 500 feet per second or whatever.
Yeah, and it's like level 3 is like, oh, what's level 3 made for? To stop 308. Like that will stop this thing. So this thing is like the equivalent within like 100 yards or 50 yards to being hit with like a 308. So...
And it's dead. Like, why aren't we trying to ban assault bows? I mean, they're quieter than a suppressed gun.
Oh yeah.
And I think they should.
Stop giving them ideas.
They should definitely be regulated by the NFA.
Well, the one thing is too is you get some of these sights on these bows that you could actually tune, just like BDC reticles on these bows. It's just like some of those things. Those guys can make some crazy shots with, and you're just like, these things are scary.
I've got one when I was working at Al's. I got a good deal on a Hoyt bow, and it was also a left-handed, like the only one that was in there.
Wow. And that's why you got a good deal, admittedly.
But good luck trying to sell it.
Yeah, no kidding.
But
it's like trying to sound a left-hand bolt gun.
Yes, exactly. It's impossible. It can't be done. But I'm a admitted bow novice. I know almost nothing about it, but I was hitting targets at 70, 80 yards away with the little pins. It's a ton of fun. I love shooting bows.
Now we need the ultimate 22 long range / bow match, and then we'll bring We'll bring hit factor scoring into it. We'll see what we get.
All right, from Ruben Garcia, what are your shooting goals? What was your shooting goal when you started? How did you set your yearly goals, and how do you track progress? That's a lot of questions.
Become a Patreon member for us to answer more than one of your questions in a month.
So what were my goals starting this thing? I don't know. I just kind of want to be good. I just kind of want to be good at handling firearms. IDPA Master is one of the big things that I wanted to be good at. And then I want to be competitive in matches, like just locally, just in the state of Utah. And so, how did I track myself? Well, the funny thing is I always kind of put myself up against other people that were of the same skill. And if I could consistently compete with them, and I knew that they were getting better, like it just kind of drove it. So it wasn't so much about having goals or something outside. It was like just beat this person. Like this is the person you need to beat. Just beat them, and it kind of works out there. As far as now, it's like I'm just gonna shoot IDPA this year. It's like I would like a state championship title. So we'll see if I can do that. Robert.
Seems legit. What is my shooting goals? Right this year, not run out of primers. That's probably my shooting goal this year. I think I may succeed. When I first started, the only reason I started was because the guy who taught me how to shoot said that if you want to get better at shooting, you should go do this. And so I started because I just wanted to be a better conceal. I wanted to be a responsible conceal carry owner. That was it. That really was the reason I got into IDPA. And then I quickly found out that I liked playing the game more than anything, and that's essentially become my life at this point. As far as setting yearly goals, I kind of do what Wansik does. I'm like, I've got one thing I'm going to work on this year, and that's all I'm going to work on. And yeah, and how you track progress, you write it all down in a book. If you care enough to do it, then you care enough to write it down.
Nate?
I'll be totally honest. I haven't really shot a lot of USPSA lately, and probably don't plan on shooting a lot this time. So I'm not going to comment much on like goals, but I will say that I was very similar when I started with Robert. Like I was like gun wise, I came into it totally from the tactical Timmy side, or the all about, concealed carry and being a responsibly armed citizen and things. And I kind of followed the similar path. The more that I started shooting the matches, like the camaraderie with the people that were there, I just kind of got more interested in shooting the competition side than the kind of concealed carry side. I did a ton of static shooting when I started. I mean, I would shoot the dot tortures, and I would shoot the 6 circles, and I would shoot all sorts of, the fast drill. I do tons of just standing and I would say that was really good. That provided a good foundation and a base. But I mean, if you're looking to get good at the sport, I think the movement is probably one of the most important things for reducing your stage times, which correlates directly to the hit factor. So.
Yep.
All right, from Mark Brando. From your viewpoints, what's a good way for a club which has historically been a great beginner club to increase and retain more competitive talent? Start increasing the complexity of your stages.
Make sure that you are fair and equitable, that you're enforcing the rules. That will keep serious people wanting to come back to it.
That's actually really huge. If people know that you run a consistent match, they're more inclined to come back. I've seen more people leave because of Mickey Mouse. We're not going to really honor these rules than anything.
Yeah, because the people that are serious into this, it's not like the major sports. None of us are doing it for money. You're not doing it for anything besides like the love of the game and wanting to do better. And an unequitable or an unfair match destroys all of that. And yeah, anyone that's serious is going to have no interest in going.
Yeah, there's clubs I won't go to for that reason, because they have stages that aren't, legal.
Well, the other part too is like, if you make something that people care about. So if you start kind of both what Nate and Robert were saying, having following the rules, creating more complex stages. The funny thing is like to actually hold a match, or even that's not even maybe USPSA or IPSC or IDP affiliated, but is like close. You can actually do a lot of things like that by making your own like kind of like big outlaw match, and charging twice as much as the local match and building up some trophies. And at least for the people that are in your club, they have something to look forward to and to strive for. Because in some areas that you live in, like that's the only club, and most people may not travel to go shoot matches. So if you're able to create something that's just kind of fun once a year, and that maybe draws people from other clubs, it can become a big thing to make people care about the club even more.
Yeah, I would say on that on the one side, if you want serious, like let's say USPSA competition, that you're going to have to put USPSA matches on, because there's a lot of people that shoot USPSA and that is their thing, and they don't have any interest in doing other stuff. However, there's other matches, like for example, up here, basically everybody around here every year goes up to Soda Springs in Idaho. They have a big falling steel match with a man versus man shoot off at the end, and that's honestly one of the biggest matches for a lot of people, and it's one that they go to every year. They love it. There's almost like kind of this cult following of it. They do a nice meal, and people just know what to expect when they go up there. And they've been able to create a huge following with a match that isn't a USPSA or IDPA match, exactly like you said. So If you can put quality competition on, people know what to expect when they go there, then people will show up. The people that like that sort of competition will show up.
Yep.
All right, last question from Alex Mansfield. What makes someone a good RO? How can we get the bad ROs to be good ROs? And how do we get more people to volunteer as ROs at major matches?
Being a good equity in the rules, that's one thing. That's first and foremost. Getting an RO to pay attention. The other thing is like consistency, which is giving the range commands the same way every time to everybody in the squad. It's funny is like when we're all in the same squad, it gets kind of lackadaisical and kind of funny. But it's like.
But that's at a level 1.
Yeah.
We're all buddies. We all know the rules, and so yeah, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Good ROs at a state match. Generally, you got a handful of them that are out there in the USPSA or whatever community that you're going out there and shooting, and just equity. Like equity, making sure that they're making the right call. They are not afraid to conference with the scorekeeper to make sure that they're doing everything's right, that they're making the right call on any issue that they have.
Fundamentally, the difference between a good RO and a bad RO are little things, but there's a couple things that I've always honored. Well, ever since the implementation of Robert's Rule, I've honored. Number one is do nothing to hurt the shooter. Every time a shooter comes up and they shoot their stage, they own everything they get on that stage. But you don't do anything to hurt them. I mean, you don't go out of your way to try and screw somebody over or try and make their life more miserable. They paid their $20 or whatever it costs, and they are there to have a good time. You administer the rules fairly, but don't go out of your way to hurt them. And the second thing, which I think is probably bigger than anything, is use the rule book to keep people in the game. And if you do that, then you're on your way to becoming a very good RO. There are a lot of ROs out there who believe in kind of the notches on the gun belt mentality of, let's see how many people we can DQ from this stage. And I'll be honest, I've been there where I've had stages where, Robert's Rule came about because, I had 27 of them in one match, and that one kind of hurt. And so I was just like, I'm never doing this again. But at the same time, if you want people to volunteer as an RO at a major match, you really have to start to develop this attitude within the club that the club needs and honors the volunteers. And if you don't develop that, one of the things that will actually kill a club is people just being like out there to do their own thing. You really have to get this idea that everybody is here. We're all here to have fun, but at the same time, we all need everybody to help a little bit. And when you do have your ROs at major matches, you do everything you can to take care of them. Your RMs are constantly asking if they need anything. You run lunch out to them. You make sure there's water on the stage. You empower them to be successful. And if you do that, you'll find that more ROs will come back and they'll work your match because they know that you're actually putting on a match where they care about.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I think along those lines, if you follow the PA, you probably know who Joey Crawford is. That means you're a bad referee. If people know your name, if you're like infamous, then I think that's a good indication that you are not the sort of RO that the sport needs. In any sport, the officials should do as much as possible to stay out of the way of the competition. It should never be focused on the RO or what the RO is deciding.
No.
Oh, that actually brings up another thing. First foremost, anything. Okay, do not be afraid to say you didn't see a call. If you didn't see something, just say you didn't see it. There is no shame in saying you did not see something happen. The worst thing you could ever do as an RO, the absolute worst thing you can do is to go and back up another RO and say, oh yeah, I totally saw that guy break the 180. If you didn't see it, you didn't see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Never make this game personal. It is never meant to be the ROs versus the competitors.
Yeah.
It's never meant to be that way. You just, if you don't see something, just say I didn't see it and move on.
Well,
that's great.
Well, that's the one thing too is like, if you're a hyper competitive person and you're going out there and you're volunteering to shoot some major match, so you're going to spend an extra 2 days there ROing, and like, if you're one of these people who really wants to win and really wants to see your name up on the scoring, that you might try to influence the outcome of some things, like, it's best not to RO. Like, you got to kind of know yourself and be willing not to put yourself in the situations in which you could damage the sport or damage the competition.
Yeah, and I think one of the... Oh, go ahead.
I always tell people at my new shooters match, I mean, this is a game. I mean, people call it a sport, whatever. I don't care. But it's a game. At the end of the day, we're all here. We're paying money to come and shoot at a bunch of brown paper targets. And at the end, and when it's all over, we're going to go home and we're going to mow the lawn or go grocery shopping or whatever. Nobody's taking home the Mary Kay pink Cadillac. It's not happening.
Yeah.
But what you are taking home is your honor. And if you don't have that, then I don't know, maybe that doesn't mean anything to you, but to me it still means something, that you actually can go to sleep and hold your head up high.
Well, there's people that we would call who would do such things. They're called cheaters. And I know that we get farther and farther away from, like, you know, people being called out for such things or trying to exploit the rules. But it's like, in a world...
Everybody makes, as I say, everybody doing everything in life, you're going to make mistakes. And you're going to do things that you look back and you're like, geez, I wish I never would have done those things.
Yeah.
That's life. We all do it. Okay, we all make mistakes. The goal is to make less and less of them as you progress.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and hopefully not take anybody down with you. Is that it, Robert, or we have one more?
We did have one last one from Andy Erickson. Would you sell a 650 and upgrade to a 750? Shill's just got a buttload of 750s and I'm tempted.
I have a 650. I've never touched a 750. My 650 seems to run fantastic.
It doesn't seem like it's that much. It's not like going from a 650 to a 1050. It just doesn't feel like it's just like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I absolutely have to spend the money to do it. The 650 is a great press. The 750 is a great press. It's just not that much greater.
Yeah, I think really the primary difference is the priming system, correct? As opposed
to that really is
wheel,
the big
it's got more of the shuttle system like the 550.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love the wheel. Like, I've seen kind of the shell system, but I really enjoy the wheel. Like, once you get how the wheel works and where it dumps primers, and like, I've never had an issue with the wheel whatsoever. You know, you get used to I got 12 primers to run through a tube when it says it's empty, and I got to kind of kickstart it when I start loading again or enter some new primers. But besides that, I've never had a problem with the wheel.
Yeah, to me, the 650 going to the 750 is like getting the 2019 versus the 2020 Ford Ranger. It's just a little bit of generational fixes, things that they tweaked, but it's the same basic thing. And so there's no reason to sell your 2019 for a 2020.
Yeah.
If you're starting all over, yeah, of course, get the 750. But nah, I mean, I wouldn't do it unless you just want to have two dedicated machines. And in that regard, I totally understand because I've got a lot of them. I'm actually trying to think in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 5 of them.
You got 3 right behind you, so that's one indication. So, all right, well, thanks for you guys listening, downloading, subscribing. Thanks for Night Osborne for coming over and filling in on like 5 hours notice, if that. So thanks to him. Thanks to Robert Roy for showing up, and hopefully we'll see Kenny Terry and Steve Koski on next week's episode. So anyway, I'm Tom Nelson, bidding you peace, love, and soul as we depart into the open waters of the Sea of Life on a little tugboat we like to call the PARAcast.
Good night, everybody.
Tug, tug.
Rub, rub.
What? No! Toot, toot!